Welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today, I will be your host. Today's show, we are talking about the crazy NBA free agency. I love this part of the season. This is definitely one of my favorite topics to cover. Yeah, so we're exclusively talking about NBA free agency here. Got some slides for you guys so you guys will be able to see what players we're talking about. We'll be talking a little bit about how these players could actually affect the landscape for each team that they have initially signed with. We'll also, too, be prepping here for the NBA Summer League, which is set to take off this Friday in Las Vegas. There are games taking place here in Sacramento. I believe it's the California Classic. Very excited to see that. That's actually going to be on ESPN tomorrow. So we'll be talking a little bit about some of those games that are taking place and some of the storylines that I'm actually looking forward to seeing here. And just a little house cleaning for you guys. Next week's show, we are actually going to be live out there in Vegas. And so we'll actually be out there at the games. You guys will get a chance to see this. Looking to see what Victor Wembanyama looks like up close and personal. Very, very excited to see Brandon Miller and a whole host of lottery picks play here. So we have an exciting show for you guys next week just to prep you guys. And just if you are looking at the show here on YouTube, you can follow us here at Real Talk Sports with Rico. You can also follow us on Spotify podcast there, formerly known as Anchor. You can find us there. Generally, the shows drop every Sunday. You can catch us there on Monday as well. So those are the 2 days in which you make the go ahead and subscribe button here if YouTube. And then also, guys, if you are actually following us here on the Spotify platform, make sure that you go ahead and you actually go ahead and subscribe to us. So without further ado, let me go ahead and jump into the content, guys. Thank you for the fans out there for chiming in on a week-to-week basis, and anybody that follows us here on the show here, guys. So let me go ahead and jump into it, man. So I'm very excited about this. So bringing up the first free agent, I guess, piece here that we have, and that is Javon Carter to my Chicago Bulls. So I like Javon Carter a lot. I think that this move, you're looking at a very strategical move for Chicago because obviously, if you've been following their news, Lonzo Ball is officially out for another upcoming season. I believe that Chicago has actually went ahead and has actually sent out something to the league where they're trying to get kind of like a medical clearance or some finances back for a player that is not going to be able to play. I think it's upward to about $10 million or so that they're looking to get. It's kind of an injury exemption that you file for. Not really sure how it works, but I know the Bulls are in the process of doing this. And so if you're looking at the screen here, you see Javon Carter, you see Ayo Dasumi, you see Kobe White, who they have just signed as a free agent as well. And you're looking at Andre Drummond, who is a guy that has opted in with the Chicago Bulls, thought he was going to test free agency, but he did not. Kobe White, in all intensive purposes, should be the guy. You see on the screen here that he's listed as a two guard. And by the way, this graphic that you're looking at, guys, is from NBA 2K23. Make sure you go and pick up a copy of that. And, they have him listed as a two guard. But Kobe White, to me, has been a lot of everything. He's been a point guard. He's been a two. And sometimes he's even been a three because the Bulls had sometimes they play a little small. I think if there is going to be a starter, it would be Kobe White just because he has been there. He is a high lottery pick. I believe that Coach Donovan is very, very high on him. And Ayo Dasumi, he's very much in the playing time scenario. He definitely proved himself as a rookie. He's outstanding, a guy that I've loved since he's come out of the University of Illinois. He's a hometown kid. I love how he's developed. His jump shot's getting better. Very good basketball IQ. Terrific at getting DeRozan and guys good shots. Javon Carter, it wouldn't surprise me if he's the starter at some point. He's stepping in for Patrick Beverly. as you see on the screen, this guy is a two-way superstar creator. I mean, he's definitely a guy that for sure can knock down the three-pointer. You look at his three-point percentage, it has steadily risen. This is a guy that is from the Chicago area, went to high school there. The mid-range scoring is something that he can do. I think he's going to see a lot more of that, especially with the ball in his hands. When you saw him at Phoenix and you saw him at Milwaukee, he mainly had to play off of Giannis, or he's had to play off of Devin Booker or Aiden. But this is a situation where he is probably going to be called upon a lot more than ever in his offensive as an offensive player. So I like this signing for the Bulls. It does strengthen the backcourt. I still think that they need to go out and find another big, but I think it's a good start for them. They haven't made a huge splash, but we'll see what happens when they actually go ahead. And I think they're going to qualify for this injury exemption that they have. So I like that Javon Carter signing. Um, Next up here, as we go through the screen, you guys are going to see that as we bring it up, some technical difficulties, but we have the Cavs. That is another actual situation with the Cavs where they have actually gone out and they have gotten Max Strus, and they also have gotten George Niang from Philadelphia. And I'll bring you guys a graphic here in a second. So sorry about the technical difficulties, but these are two good signings, I think, for the Cavs. I think everything that the Cavs did last year was really good on paper, right? Um, it looked great. And I just think that they lost in round one. And I think a lot of it was due to experience. I think a lot of it had to do with grit for the most part. And I think when you add Max Strusis and then you add George Niang, both of those players have a bit of an edge to me. And I think that that is a little bit of what the Cavs need. They needed a little bit more of a dog, so to speak. And I think that this was terrific signings. One, Max Struces will help stretch the floor. And with George Niang, the thing that I have loved most about him is that he has the ability to score both inside and outside. And he's a bit underrated, and he does have a little bit of a fire side in him as well. Looked at any of his games that he played for the Philadelphia 76ers. This guy was a second round pick. I thought he was a stud in college. He pretty much did everything for his college team, and he's turned into a little bit more of a 3-and-D guy. But I think that this is going to help the Cavs immensely, especially since they really couldn't find any outside shooting. Isaac Okora, a guy that you see here in the screen, I love him, but they needed somebody that could stretch the floor, and they're getting that with two excellent players, and they both defend well. I think that this bodes well for Donovan Mitchell, and I think that this gives Donovan Mitchell a little bit more leeway to actually trust his teammates a little bit more and not have to have the ball in his hands as much. I think when Cleveland really got in trouble is when the offense bogged down and people were able to really focus a lot on Donovan Mitchell, and they're not going to be able to do that this next year. They bring back these two, or they bring in these two guys. Plus, you're looking here on the screen that they also did re-sign Jarris LeVert as well, who's really key for them coming off the bench. So I like a lot of what Cleveland did. I think this was a good signing for both of them. You know, picking up again Max Strusis and then also picking up George Niang, and then you see there Chris LeVert. They're bringing him back. Next up, you're looking at the Boston Celtics here. They have O'Shea Brissett here, who's a power forward / center. Looked at as kind of a 3-level scorer. You see the badge there, the 3-point scoring, inside scoring, athleticism. They may need that. He's 6'7", 210 here. Not really sure what's going to happen to Grant Williams. He is a restricted free agent. I think that they have to bring him back, especially since they have let Marcus Smart go. you have to bring him back. And then it is uncertain with what they're going to do with Malcolm Brogdon. I couldn't imagine him necessarily coming back, especially since they floated him in a trade. I think that deal just kind of fell through. He was injured. I don't know if that had something to do with it from a medical standpoint. I do like Malcolm Brogdon, and I think he would be well served to stay there. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like him and Boston are on the same page. But yeah, Boston is going to need some kind of height here. They're going to need somebody that's going to be able to stretch the floor. They need somebody that's other than just a pick and roll player like Robert Williams, and they're going to need forwards that can actually step out here. Al Horford is getting a little bit older, so maybe perhaps O'Shea Brissett here will be a bigger factor here for the Boston Celtics, who I think are really hurting as far as height is concerned. Next up, you're looking at the Clippers here. So the Clippers re-signed Russell Westbrook. That's clearly one of the biggest things that they have done. I love the fact that they brought in Kenyon Martin's son there, who played outstanding for the Rockets. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But Russell Westbrook was a critical piece for the Lakers, for the Clippers, because he was the most healthiest. He is the most consistent. He plays at a high level. You do not ever have to worry about what Russell Westbrook is going to bring to your club. And I think it was quite clear that they wanted him back after last season. Ty Lue made that very clear that he wanted him back. They brought him back for 2 years, $8 million here. So not a whole bunch that they threw at him as far as the bag, but I expect Russell Westbrook to have another bounce back season. I think that what you saw there the last, 4 weeks or 5 weeks of the season or whatever it was when he was there, I think you're going to see that, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities. And keep in mind that the Clippers are not necessarily done. There is the fact that they could possibly go out and be in play here for Dame Lillard, which would be a game changer. You're looking at the screen here. You see Eric Gordon, who is actually with the Phoenix Suns. He was actually released by the Clippers. You're looking at Bones Highland here in the screen. I think that he is going to have to play a bigger role. Terrence Mann is going to have to continue to evolve. And Zubac here is going to have a bigger role as well, because it is reported that they are probably going to move on from Miles Plumlee there. And then, so you're also looking at the Kenyon Martin Jr. I think that this was a huge pickup. I think that you're going to see a guy that is going to play a lot more. He's young. To me, he plays with a lot of anger, a lot like Kenyon Martin did. If you've ever watched him play for the Nets, play for some good Nuggets teams, this young man is unafraid. I know they have him listed as a power forward. He plays a lot bigger than that. He can knock down the three ball. The athleticism is what really sticks out to me. He is going to allow the Clippers to not just necessarily play half-court basketball. I love him paired with Bones Highland. These guys are going to run. It could turn into a track meet. They may need that in the West. So next up, you have the Derrick Rose signing in Memphis. I like this for a lot of reasons. I think that Derrick Rose could provide some leadership, and he is what Richard Jefferson would say as the adult in the room. You need some adults in the rooms, which are basically vets, man, that can settle a young club down. And I think John Morant needs a guy like Derrick Rose. I'm a Bulls fan. Derrick Rose has been through it all with the knee injuries and the things off the court. For him to fight back, be one of the most improved players, be even in consideration for Sixth Man of the Year at one point, and the fact that he's still in the league, he's still going, and he's actually, in a way, going back home. If you remember, he played for Memphis, the University of Memphis, when John Calipari was there. They were in the national championship game, came down to the last second, and they lost to Kansas. Mario Chalmers was on that Kansas team, who ended up playing for the Miami Heat. They ended up winning a championship. So Derrick Rose, I like him here in Memphis, going to give them some point guards stability. He's obviously going to get a lot of minutes, I think, early on, because they have Marcus Smart, but they are going to need some more at the point guard position. seeing as how they let go of Tyrus Jones, who's the most efficient point guard in all the NBA. Next up, you're looking at the Miami Heat. So far, they have brought Josh Richardson over. A little bit of a homecoming. Josh Richardson was with the Miami Heat before he was traded in the sign and trade to get Jimmy Butler over there. Um, I'm not sure if it's necessarily a little bit of an addition. Perhaps this is a good fit for Josh Richardson. He is a tough player. They list him here as a two-way scoring machine. I do agree with the fact that he is a bit of a mid-range scorer. He's not necessarily a three-point shooter. He is a good perimeter defender, so I think that that perimeter defense is going to be needed, especially with the exit of Gabe Vincent and then also to Max Strus. So I think that he is going to play a lot. And depending on what Miami is going to do, because they're in play as well for Dame Lillard, he could actually have an expanded role in it next season. You're looking also to a Kevin Love next to him. Kevin Love also resigned. He's there with Kyle Lowry. So Miami has retained its core, but they did lose a lot of their young pieces and undrafted players. I do like the fact that they do have Jaime Jaquez on this roster out of UCLA. I talked about him in last week's show. Expect for him to be the most underrated rookie, and I think he's going to really, really make it to the big stage early on. Even though this guy was the 18th pick overall, I've said it last week, I'm saying it now. Jaime Jaquez is NBA ready, and he is going to be an impact for the Miami Heat, regardless of who they trade or who they go after in free agency. Next up, we have the Miami Heat again. I forgot about Thomas Bryant quickly on the screen there. Thomas Bryant, if you remember, played for the Lakers, played for the Wizards, very serviceable. He will help to give depth behind Bam Adebayo. Remember, I thought that that was the key for them in the Denver series. They needed more height. Thomas Bryant coming over from Denver, he will help Miami there. Chris Durrett and the Sacramento Kings. I like Chris Durrett a lot. I believe he played at the University of Oregon. The one thing that you're seeing on the screen is basketball IQ. Believe that is hit right on the head. He is a very efficient player when he is on. I mean, he can do it all. He can rebound, he can assist, he can score. You know, it's not like he does one thing great. I know they have 3-point scoring on there. He can hit it. I'm not necessarily wanting to say that he is a consistent 3-point shooter, but you're looking at the fact that he can play multiple positions, the shooting guard and the small forward. I think you're looking at a player that is a lot like Malik Monk, who is already there. You're going to see a guy that is going to have some explosive offensive nights. And the one about him is he does winning plays. And so I think that you're going to see this guy. You didn't get a chance to see him a lot in Indiana, but I think you're going to see him a little bit more. I feel like Mike Brown is going to use this guy a lot in his rotation. Young player, 25. This guy has got a lot to give. I'm telling you guys, you're really going to love what Chris Durrett really brings to Sacramento. Next up, we're looking at the Los Angeles Lakers, who clearly have won free agency. I mean, look at this. They have Taurean Prince coming over here from Minnesota. He was once a top pick in the NBA draft, very good playing in the NCAA, has quietly developed a three-point shot, does have the inside score. He was a little bit more of a big when he came into the league, I think for the Nets initially, but he is going to play a lot here. Keep it going here. They also have went out and they re-signed. They got Jackson Hayes. He was the 8th pick in the draft. So they got another big in Jackson Hayes. They let Mo Bamba go. You're getting a guy that's got high energy, very good at attacking the rim. He is more of a rim runner. And he also, too, is terrific at blocking shots. Think a lot more of like a DeAndre Jordan, but a lot younger. Cam Reddish. A lot of people have said that Cam Reddish was going to be a Laker. Cam Reddish is still looking to find his niche. If you remember when he played for Duke, he had signs of being a great player. He just really hasn't found it. Maybe the Lakers are able to unleash it. I think that they're going to need him, certainly at the small forward, two guard spot. He fills in well for Lonnie Walker, who did exit. And so I like it. Hopefully Cam can unlock his skill set here for the Lakers. Jared Vanderbilt coming back to the Lakers. Huge. They get him. He was a very good defensive presence at the 6'9". He also was able to step out and knock down some three-point shots as well. Yeah, he is very much an inside-outside scorer and a rim protector, number one. You're looking next to him, you have Gabe Vincent, huge signing, undrafted rookie, really put his name on the map here as a terrific three-point shooter and a very versatile defender on the outside. Even though he's smaller, don't think that it's going to be an easy offensive night. This guy fights for everything that he gets out there on the defensive and offensive end. Think he's going to fit in very nicely here. With the exit of Dennis Schroeder, you actually get a little bit of an upgrade offensively. You're hoping that you get the same thing defensively. I just hope that it's not like Chris Dunn when they traded for Chris Dunn and it didn't necessarily work out for them. D'Angelo Russell coming back. They got him on a 2-year deal, originally drafted by the Lakers. I'm not sure if this is necessarily great for the Lakers, but it didn't cost them a whole bunch of money to bring him back. And I'm not sure you probably can start him, I would say. You hope that he doesn't disappear come playoff time, but he has proven that he is a very good regular season player. So you're going to need players like this to get you there. And that's the beauty of going out and getting Gabe Vincent, the Reddishes, and guys like that, because these guys can bring you home if D'Angelo Russell struggles in the playoffs. So a good signing to keep that. Rudy Hachimura had to sign him, 6'8". I've always loved his game out of Gonzaga. I'm not sure if he's a shoot first kind of guy that they're putting here, shoot first for. He's more of an all-around player, I would say. He can score from the mid-range. He showed that he's a lot better with his back to the basket last year. I was very impressed with that. With his inside scoring, he's gotten a lot stronger since he's entered out of Gonzaga. And he was very good from the three-point line. I know that they ran a lot of pick and pops for him. There were a lot of situations where LeBron would attack the middle of the floor and be able to kick out to Rue. So I like this signing. I think it was a must-have signing for the Lakers, along with this guy here, Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves certainly deserved the bag. He got the max extension there for the next 4 seasons, has really played his way into something superb. He is unafraid of the moment. He would be like an Alex Caruso 2.0. You know, he's not afraid to mix it up. He can shoot the three ball, and he has a nice little in-betweener game. I love how he comes off pick and rolls, and he's able to maneuver his way into certain spots or get passes off. Very good at creating contact and getting to the foul line. So he's a lot stronger than what he looks. And I know he's listed at the 6'5", but he plays a lot bigger than 6'5" out there. Next up, we're looking at the Dallas Mavericks. So the Dallas Mavericks, the one real thing that they went out and did is they got Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving, you had to bring him back. You gave up so much to get him there. Not sure if this is really going to do anything for the Mavs. I'm thinking that at the end of the day, this was more of a play to try to keep Luka Doncic happy. It's still not a roster that's going anywhere. This maybe is a play-in team, but the Mavericks still have to do a lot. Even though they bring Steph Curry over with them, Steph Curry has been there before, or Steph Curry, excuse me, has been there before. A very good shooter. He's going to get a lot of playing time, but still the fact remains Dallas needs a lot more. And I think that they need to really address what they want to do from a center position. You're looking at Derek Lively, which was their pick out of Duke, but he is more of a pick and roll type player. He is going to see a lot of those opportunities at the rim with Kyrie and with Luka Doncic, but they're going to need some more, I think, stretch fives, stretch fours. They really need to spread it out a little bit for these guys who like to attack the lane so much, so defenses don't just bog down and not worry about shooters. Um, Next up, we're looking at the Dallas Mavericks again. Forgot about Rashawn Holmes. Yeah, I think this was an energy pickup, but again, he's still in the same lane as Derek Lively. You know, it's going to be a rim runner, pick and rolls, but they still need to do a little bit more with the stretch five. We just talked about that. Dennis Smith Jr., a former lottery pick, over to the Nets. Not sure if this really biggest they went and got Cam Johnson re-signed along with Mikal Bridges. So I think that that was probably the biggest signing for them. And now you're looking at the Pacers. The Pacers really did the number. They went ahead and maxed out Tyrese Halliburton, who had a career year. You still have Miles Turner over, who I do not think that they're going to trade at this point. You pair him with Jace Walker here. This guy, outstanding. Watched a lot of his games for the University of Houston. He is going to be an immediate impact because he can score in all levels. And I think that he is going to open up the floor for them. You have Bruce Brown coming over from Denver. You see him on the screen to go along with Ben Mathurin. These guys are going to be dynamite. That this is going to be the best Pacers team since Paul George has left. I really think that the Pacers are going to really turn the corner. And how about the trade that they made to get Obi Toppin over there? This team is absolutely loaded. People forget that Buddy Hield is playing here. You got Andrew Nimbard, who comes out of Gonzaga, a very high IQ level point guard that will play out of Gonzaga, can play the two as well. The Pacers are absolutely loaded. With the Pelicans, the biggest thing that they did was they brought Herb Jones back. Excellent two-way player. It has to get better from a three-point standpoint, but the one thing that you're seeing here is the perimeter defense. He is the best defender out there besides Jose Alvarado. With size, Herbert Jones is absolutely an elite defender. Think a lot like Dylan Brooks for him. Detroit made some moves. They go out and get Joe Harris in a trade. I like that. You're seeing that they pair that with James Wiseman, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Durant, who I've loved out of Memphis, very good, and the rookies that they have over there as well. With Toronto, they were pretty much decimated when they lost Fred VanVleet to Houston. You get Dennis Schroeder over there to go along with Scotty Barnes and Grady Dick and OJ Anunoby. They still haven't traded Pascal Siakam. I don't know if this is necessarily going to move the needle for Toronto. They're still bottom of the East. Lucky if they get into a play-in situation. I think that they're headed towards a rebuild. It wouldn't shock me if they go ahead and they trade Anunoby and Siakam, even though Siakam has said that he is not going to re-sign with whatever team goes out and gets him. I think that they're just in a place where they've let the coach go, and now I think they're in a total rebuild as they have clearly started to move away from that championship team that they had when Kawhi Leonard was there. Next up, we have the Houston Rockets, who I think did a very terrific job in free agency. You're looking, first of all, at Jock Landale. I think he was a terrific pickup for the Suns. I'm not sure why the Suns let him go. I think he was more of the insurance policy if DeAndre Ayton doesn't work out, which is still a possibility that they may ship him out and go out and get some more players. With Landale, you're looking at a guy that's 6'11", plays with a lot of energy. I love the fact that he rebounds at a high level, terrific in space and creating contact and finishing in contact. He's actually a lot more stronger than people actually give him credit for. So I think he's going to be a terrific addition, especially if Jabari Smith and Sagoon get in trouble there as far as in the interior. Remember, they lost out on Brook Lopez, who elected to stay with Milwaukee. This guy, I think, was the second best bet for them. You can expect Houston to turn it into a track meet pretty much each and every time they're on the court. They get Dylan Brooks, a very good perimeter defender. I watched him at the University of Oregon when they made their Final Four run. And this is going to be a bit of an interest to me because they did pick up Van Fleet, and you have him. You have, um, Porter Jr. on this roster, or Kevin Porter Jr. You have Jalen Green. All those guys score. He wanted an expansive role, um, other than what he was getting in Memphis. I'm not sure if he's going to get that expanded role with Denver. He is more than likely going to start, I think, at the three, but he's still going to have to be a lot of a 3-and-D guy. Remember, the one thing that was the harp on Dylan Brooks is the fact that his shot selection. So hopefully, the coach here that they have brought in, Coach Nduke, can pretty much go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Okay. Perhaps he can get Dylan Brooks a little bit more sharper, a little bit more settled on the offensive end. Perhaps he can get him a little bit more in transition than versus having to stand out there and be a stationary 3-point shooter. That'd be my only concern with what they got with Dylan Brooks. Otherwise, I love what he's done, will do for the locker room. I love what he's going to do for their defense. Because remember, Houston gave up a lot of everything. Pretty much anybody who had a career high, it was against Denver. Dylan Brooks will end all that. Fred VanVleet, terrific point guard, one of the most efficient point guards in the league. I believe Houston came in at 21 assists per game. I think Fred VanVleet himself averaged about 7 or 8 assists a game. So already that's going to help you out a lot. When you're talking about an assist guy, assists are important because now I don't have to worry about creating my own offense. I have a guy that's setting the table for me. Fred VanVleet's going to do that. And he's also a threat on the offensive end. He's going to knock down a lot of jumpers. You're not just going to sink in the lane on Sagoon, and you're not just going to go ahead and sink down in the paint on Amin Thompson here or Jalen Green or these guys like that. You are actually going to have to honor their 3-point shooting. So I really like where Houston was going with this. I know they still had the most cap room. They still got a lot left. Sacramento, San Antonio, excuse me. You're looking at Victor Wembanyama. Obviously, he was drafted there. The reason I have them up is because Victor Wembanyama, first and foremost, I've said it before, I think he's generational talent for, this generation to come. But there is talk that they could possibly go out and get Dame Lillard. They have the picks to go get Dame Lillard. They have some contracts that are not necessarily favorable. I'd say that they're probably going to have to add a couple more teams here, but Wembanyama with Dame Lillard, and then you free up some cap space to go out and possibly get a veteran. That's going to be key, I think, for San Antonio if they're going to bring Dame over. But that would be an outstanding pairing if it were to happen. Next up, you have the Phoenix Suns. They went out and got a little bit more depth to the roster here. We talked about how they had Josh Okogie. We've talked about Terrence Ross. Cameron Payne will probably be the starting point guard. Liked him a lot, since he's revitalized his career. TJ Warren, a guy that he had a huge performance in the bubble, hasn't really been that good and consistent since then. You're hoping that, but you're looking at a young man here that is coming over from the Nets. This guy was dynamite, terrific 3-point shooter. I think that he is going to fit very well with what the Suns want to do. Outstanding. When Kevin Durant, Devin Booker draw a lot of these double teams, you're looking at a guy that's going to knock down a lot of shots here. And then also, too, you're looking at the fact that they went out and got Bates Diop here, who will essentially take over for Jock Lindell as far as the center slash power forward depth there. He does add a little bit of a dimension to an outside shooter. He could knock down the three, but he's more of an inside scorer. They're going to need a little bit more of a bruising effort, is Phoenix. Next up, you're looking at Victor Oladipo, who was traded over to a young OKC roster. Not sure if this is really going to help them out, but he is the adult in the room. He could help them out. Portland, they went out and got Jeremy Grant again. So this was not going out and getting him necessarily. This was more of a re-sign. Considering where Portland is going, you're going to need a guy like this who is an experienced vet that can score. I've always liked Jeremy Grant, so I think he's going to have sure who is going to give you at this point in time. He competes at a high level, doesn't necessarily have the jump shot that you're looking for right now. Shaden Sharp, another guy, he's definitely proved his athleticism, definitely proved that he was a steal. And then you know what you get with Anthony Simon. So he's going to take on a more of an expansive role as well. So they still have a pretty good young core, but they're going to take a lot of beats, especially since Dame Lillard is probably not going to be on this roster. Golden State, you see they pick up Chris Paul. You're seeing that it's going to be matched with Kevon Looney, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. I'm curious to see, is Chris Paul coming off the bench here? It would appear that that's probably what's going to happen. You know what Chris Paul is. He's essentially a playmaker, one of the best point guards. I think that he's going to help Golden State. I'm just curious to see how this works, man. I really am. Next up, Draymond Green, which is the heart and soul of Golden State, re-signed back. Jordan Poole over to the Wizards. You're looking at that. That was more of a trade. You're looking at Tyrus Jones, Landry Shamet, who came over in a trade. You're also looking at Corey Kispert coming over from Gonzaga. They drafted him a couple years ago. And then also, you're looking also on screen here at the small forward that actually played with Victor Wembanyama. He was a teammate over there with him in France. They also gave the bag to Kyle Kuzma. So Kyle Kuzma came over. I think him and Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole will be very big. So that was a huge signing for the Wizards. 76ers go out and get a little bit more defense, a little bit more feistiness with Patrick Beverley. He'll certainly play. But the question and the elephant in the room is, are they going to bring back James Harden? I think that that's really what's in question. Brook Lopez coming back to Milwaukee, all about keeping the gang together. They also get back Chris Middleton. Even though I'm a little skeptical about the Chris Middleton deal, had a lot of injuries. He hasn't been healthy since they had their championship run. But I understand with Milwaukee wanting to pretty much run it back, bring the core back. They lost Joe Ingles. I'm not really sure where Jay Crowder fits in the grand scheme of things. That didn't really work out the way that I thought it would necessarily work out. But we'll see. A year in the training camp, maybe it's a little bit better. He's obviously going to have an expanded role. Back to the Bulls, they bring back Nikola Vucic for 3 years. Not sure if I'm sold on that. I think if you were going to move somebody, Vucic. And then next up, we talked about Kobe White. We talked about how he came back to the Bulls and essentially how he will probably be the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls. So with that being said, guys, that is the have relocated. I know we didn't show Troy Brown, who went over to Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. And there might have been some more moves that have actually taken place since we're actually doing the show. But for the most part, you're looking at the free agents, where they're at. I've talked a little bit briefly about how they're going to pan out. I clearly think that the Lakers were the winners, clear-cut winners in this. I think that the Lakers went out and did the most. And in my opinion, if LeBron James gets hurt or he doesn't come back to the roster, the Lakers are in good shape based off the pieces that they have and the youth that they have brought back. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. I've always said that the Lakers leveraged a lot of their franchise to go out and get Anthony Davis for that one championship. A lot of people are obviously going to challenge that because they're going to want to know, okay, if it weren't for the bubble, if they would have played all 82, would he have made it through the 82? We don't know. Not fair to say it's over. They won the championship. They got a ring out of it. But when you look at the draft capital that they gave up, certainly they could have did a little bit more. And I think that they did a great job in getting back that youth and getting pieces around LeBron that really will satisfy him in either his years to come with them, because he wants to play with his son, or his last hurrah with them. This is very much like some of the Cleveland Cavalier teams that he has had. This is a lot like some of the Miami Heat teams that he has had where they have built around him with shooters. So I think that this is very much Rob Pelinka going out and wanting to satisfy his star. So give Rob Pelinka a lot of credit. Next up, guys, let's go ahead and let's look at the NBA Summer League, right? And so let's look at some of the top stories here. And to help us as we go through the top stories, I'm actually going to throw up a little bit of gameplay here of Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs going against Brandon Miller and the Charlotte Hornets. If you remember, that was the number 1 and 2 pick and the NBA draft. It's certainly going to be the hot topic for the Summer League because on the first night, July 7th, those players will actually play each other. I believe that Victor Wembanyama has said that he is going to very much go out and he will be a part of the Summer League here in Vegas, but he is not going to be out
pushing the ball.
San Antonio. So, I like this in a lot of different ways. I think that this is going to be, it's going to be quite interesting, man. I like the Summer League. That is going to be one of the top topics. Is going to be the 1 and the 2. When you look at Brandon Miller, you look at
Count it.
You look at the fact that he very much probably could have been the number 1 pick had it not been for Victor Wembanyama. But yeah, I'm just really curious to see what he looks like in game action. And then I'm also really curious to see if Victor Wembanyama is really the real deal. I've seen a lot of the clips. You've seen the metrics, but I want to see how he handles himself in NBA competition, how he responds to that. I'm pretty sure that Brandon Miller is going to go at him. He's going to go at Brandon Miller. I think there is going to be a little bit of a minutes restriction. I'm not sure who is on the Summer League roster for either team, but I know that those two are going to be players that you're going to look for. Next up is going to be, what does Portland have with Scoot Henderson? He'll be paired up against the Rockets here, against Amen Thompson, right? The two brothers that were drafted into the NBA out of the G League Unite, I think, or whatever that league is. His brother went to Detroit. He went to Houston, but that's the number 3 and 4 picks. And now that Dame Lillard is not going to be there, there's a real question as to what does Portland really have with Scoot, right? He plays with a lot of passion. He has a high motor. He can get to the rim. He is a playmaker, but you want to know, is he going to be able to get his shots off? Is he going to be able to knock down the three-pointer consistently? Is he going to be able to put pressure onto the defense? He reminds me a lot of what Chris Dunn was, if you remember him, right? Chris Dunn played for the Bulls. He played for the Timberwolves, a high pick, high energy guy. So I'm curious to see, is he like that, or does he evolve into a good player? The first step starts in the Summer League. Lastly, the nightcap, you're going to get a chance to see um, Jalen Hood Shafino for the Lakers. And then you're also going to see the talented guard that Golden State has got. A lot of people will say that the pick that Golden State got here was a steal in the draft. They say this guy can shoot it with the best of them. Very high disciplined here. I'm curious to see here. He's part of definitely the building piece for Golden State. A guy that they're probably going to have to depend on a lot, especially since Devin Gento has left. And so they're going to need a guy like this. With the Lakers, this is more of their added youth. This young man coming out of Indiana, we talked about him last week. He is a willing defender. He's not necessarily a great shooter, but he's more of a slasher. Think a lot like of a Tracy McGrady or something like that. So he still needs to develop a little bit more as a scorer, but his calling card is probably going to be his ability to make plays and to defend. So we'll see what he looks like here on the nightcap in day one of the summer league. So those are some of the top stories that I'm looking to see. Want to see what Orlando has out there. I love what they had in the draft. And then lastly, I'm looking to see what Chet Holmgren looks like. Not a lot of people are talking about Chet Holmgren. Remember, guys, Chet Holmgren, 7'2", out of Gonzaga, broke his foot, lost his rookie season. This is his rookie year. Sam Presti has confirmed that he is going to play in Vegas. How much he's going to play, I'm not sure. But with him, with Giddey, with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, OKC is my surprise team in the West. I think that they're going to be very much in the play-in situation again. With Chet Holmgren, they might actually push through. It is a real possibility that they could be eighth in the West. It would not shock me. Sam Presti has done a terrific job in going out and getting youth talent. They have a couple of players that they got last year that played at an extremely high level. So, yeah, Chad Holmgren is definitely a guy that I am going to be checking for in Summer League. Curious to see what Dante Exum looks like. Dante Exum coming back. Remember, he was a high draft pick in the NBA, didn't necessarily pan out as much, played more of a off the bench role, but he is stated that he will be out there in Summer League. I think he might be playing for the Mavs or something like that. I got to go back and look, but I'm curious to see what vets are actually trying to find a home that are going to be out there in Summer League. You know, when you look at Summer League, it's so many good players out there. Everybody's competing for NBA spots. I've seen guys that have been in the midst of games not come out the next half because they have been signed to a overseas contract. So, yeah, we'll see who gets signed overseas. I'm curious to see some of these players that have come over from the Euro League. Terrific time to check out them and to see what they look like against NBA competition, to see what players are going to stick out that not a lot of people talked about. One of the players that I think is going to be that guy is Jaime Jaquez. These are players a lot like Donovan Mitchell, right? Donovan Mitchell, these guys had solid summer league performances, but nobody really was thinking about them in the NBA draft. There's always going to be those players at summer league that they just wanted an opportunity, and I love that. Dylan Brooks, I remember when Dylan Brooks was on Memphis's summer league roster, out there competing his tail off. So I love that about the summer league. I think that those are certainly going to be some of the top stories. I think obviously the Dame Lillard situation is always going to be a top situation. There's going to be a lot of talk about that because they're going to want to see if he gets moved and everything else. So those are some of the top stories I think that are going to be out there in Summer League. And so with that being said, guys, that is today's show. We talked about NBA free agency. You got a chance to see these players on screen via the 2K23, right? You got a chance to see right now, you are looking at some actual gameplay with the San Antonio Spurs and Charlotte Hornets. This is going to take place at some point. You're going to see the number 1 and number 2 picks play for real here in the NBA game. So that's going to be taking place in Summer League first, And then you're looking at what it's going to look like when they actually play an NBA game. So we talked about some of the summer league stories and things like that. Just to reiterate, guys, you can catch this show pretty much every Sunday. We are putting up another show. You can catch us on Real Talk Sports with Rico on YouTube. You can catch me at Real Talk Sports with Rico on Spotify via podcast there. And definitely make sure that you go ahead and like and subscribe the show. And tune in for next week, guys. We are going to be on the road. We're going to be at the Summer League. I am going to actually be at games. And so we'll actually be going over some of the games, guys. We'll be looking at some of the games. Yeah, we'll be commentating about it. Hopefully, we can get some players over here to talk to us a little bit and tell us what their thoughts are, man. So stay posted for that show. And for myself, this is Rico, Real Talk Sports. I'll see you guys on the next show. I'm saying peace